Hey there, Michael. Guys, this is Michael Pratt. He is the CEO and founder of Pivet. Welcome.
Hi, good
I,
morning. How are you?
I'm great today, thanks. How are you?
I'm doing well. Just come off of a full week of travel, so a little groggy, but happy to be home.
Wonderful. So we met Pivot at CES this year, and I really fell in love with the message and the idea that Pivot has. Why don't you tell us a little bit about where this whole idea of Pivot came about?
Absolutely. So, as the founding partner in the business and CEO, I have been in the mobile industry for about 18 years. When I first kicked off in industry, PDAs were still prominent. Pagers were kind of still around, and there was no iPhone, right? And
Mm,
smartphones were only for geeks like me, right? Data wasn't around. Broadband was still being rolled out globally, for that matter. And so, and I'm a gadget geek, so I gravitated towards accessories, which there's always been a lot of new tech evolution in accessories. And so, over the years, I kind of learned the market, learned the industry, the ins and outs. I've been a distributor. I worked for AT&T years ago, so I've done
oh,
product
wow.
development with them. And I cut my teeth in the front side of business doing sales and so forth for multiple different other brands through about my prior company, which was a manufacturer's representative business. And so I kind of learned the ins and outs from concept to market over the last 18 plus years. And one of the things that I always recognize in the industry is the amount of waste that we produce. And waste
Absolutely.
isn't, yeah, and it's just not waste in the product or whatever, but the entirety of the supply chain, the entirety of the life cycles of products we create. When you consider the average American or average consumer holds their phone for, I think the current time frame is 2.8 years. And in that time, the accessories being attached, which are in the multitude, cases, chargers, and so forth, they may replenish those or buy new ones 2 to 3 times over that 3 year cycle.
Oh,
All of
wow.
that product ends up going somewhere when they go into their end of life or last stage. And so when I decided to start Pivot, we started Pivot with the idea of being a solutions driven company. We're not a case company. We went into cases first because it was the easiest way to get our brand out, and also because everyone has a phone. So if I get my product on your phone, and because everyone puts cases on their phone, so if you're going to make a dent and start to impact the problem, that's one of the first places you want to go. And so, as a solutions driven company, the idea was let's go after waste. Let's go after all
Right.
of this plastic that's being used in our industry with no legitimate argument or idea of how we take care of it in its end of life phase. And in a simple summary way, I'd like to explain it as is we look at the 90 and 10% problem.
Hmm.
In North America, 10% of plastic ends up going into a recycling process.
Right.
90% ends up in landfills, in the
Hmm.
trash. We throw them away. 90%. As someone in his 40s, and we will only leave it at that because I'm now old enough. We just say in the 40s. Uh, when I was a child, I remember in school, reduce, reuse, recycle. And to think that in 40 years, we've only gotten to 10% tells me that the solution's not going to be in changing consumer behavior. It's
Wow.
going to be
Yeah.
in changing the solutions offered to the consumer. That's the 90% issue. And so, as Pivot being solutions driven, what we wanted to do was go after the 90% problem, the product that goes into a landfill.
Right.
My partner, Will Marshall, which you didn't get a chance to meet him when we met in person in Vegas, but he's our CTO and also my head of design. He's a brilliant industrial designer, absolutely one of the best in the world, in my opinion. He and I sat down looking at the 90% problem, and that's how Pivot was started. And we looked at if 90% of plastic, no matter who has it, ends up in the landfill, where it's going to sit for 400 to 500 years or
Wow.
longer, depending on the nutrient base or the decay of the bacteria. Every landfill is different, right? Different compositions. Um, if it's going to sit for 400 to 500 years, there's where we have to come up with a solution. And so we worked together, worked with a lab, and created a material that we call self cycle. And this
Right.
technology that we've created is essentially a material additive that allows plastic to rapidly degrade when they're nutrient rich environments, i.e., when they get thrown away, when they land in the landfill. So our plastics, Pivet plastics, treated with shelf cycle technology, when thrown away, we encourage you on our packaging and our messaging, please recycle. That's the best thing to do, but 10% of recycling done, right? If you throw it away, it's okay. If it's a Pivet product, it will self-cycle. When it goes into landfill, between 3 to 5 years, again, based on the nutrient base of the environment that it's been thrown in, the decay agent bacteria that cause degradation are attracted and colonized to our plastic because of that self-cycle additive, which causes it to then rapidly degrade. So, and that's not Michael, the owner, having the reason to greenwash and lie and market and so forth. We went to a company called Intertech, global testing facility. Any of your audience who goes and looks in their kitchen, opens their stove, refrigerator, and such will find that label in there.
Yeah, very well known.
Everyone, yes. So instead of me coming out and telling you I have the best thing around, we went straight to them. We gave them the material and said, please test it for us. Gave them no parameters. Please test this. Let us know what you find. And their results are what we are the most proud of, because the results from their testing were so high, we received their green leaf certification. That is the
Wonderful.
highest level of certification they offer, demonstrating biodegradability. And if I'm not, you might want to fact check me on this one, but I believe we are still the only consumer electronics brand globally that has received that certification.
Wow, that's
And
wonderful.
so we prominently place it on our packaging. And that way we know and consumers know that it's not us just market. Third party validated. We use their results, not our own, to articulate how effective our self cycle technology is. And we put that into all plastics that we use. So whether you're looking at a Pivet protective case, the Pivet wireless or wall charging products, the Pivet AirPod cases, the Pivet cabling, USB-C, USB-C lightning cables, all of the plastics we use completely across the board have been treated with our self-cycle technology to allow the rapid degradation.
Wow, that is something. So just to make sure I understood you correctly, my normal standard phone case that I buy at the mall, off
Mm-hmm.
Amazon or somewhere like that is going to take 400 to 500 years probably to actually.
Or longer.
Wow, that's
Yeah,
crazy.
yeah.
So the waste
Yeah.
is really something.
And when you consider, if we think of you and I as just the two of us, we're consuming in a 3 year. If we were average consumer, let's just assume that between the two of us, there's five. I'll just get egregious, 10 cases that we use over there
Sure.
because we're in the industry, right? 10 cases going to landfill. When you start to multiply that into the population of how many phones are in the market, how many cases are in the market, and then you keep going. And then the other bigger, more scary part of that is the products that never actually make it to the consumer, right? So, a retailer orders 1 million units for a new device launch. They sell 800,000.
Right.
200,000 of those get liquidated and somehow or whatever end up in the trash.
Right.
And you do that annually, and you do that globally. And that's not talking about the packaging. You know what I'm saying? Like, you start to go into this and it's quite frightening if you start to do the numbers and you look at the scale of it. But the beauty of this is it took us 3 years. So let's be clear. This isn't something we got overnight. We spent 3 years. This recipe took multiple reiterations to get it there. We started sharing our plans with some retailers, some of the operators in North America,
Right.
and got a lot of great feedback from them on, hey, that idea is great, but what about this at the consumer? So this has been a reciprocal process, even with retail, North American retail, to get our recipe right. And then once we were comfortable with it, we tested it and now have started to implement it. And one thing I'll call out is everything that we do has this in it. And so beyond the plastics, having the self-cycle technology, we have our full cycle program. So what we've also offered is, on a phone case, it's 100% plastic. So
Right.
when you throw that away or recycle it, either way, it goes into the self-cycle narrative. Ultimately, in 3 to 5 years, in landfill, gone. But that's not necessarily the same articulation for a wall charger, right? It's got
Sure.
components inside of it. So what we offer consumers is the ability to just come to our website, provide proof of purchase, and we will allow you to download a shipper label. You can send it when you're done with one of our products. You can send it right back to us, and then we will upcycle the product ourselves. So our
So that's
products,
great.
yeah.
Wow.
So that way, the customer just has to choose Pivot. Consumer becomes an eco-friendly advocate themselves by just choosing our brand instead of a different.
Wow, Michael, that's like, it's a great, first of all, it's right on point for where we're at in this part of the world in,
Mhm.
2023. And it's really just a great idea. Now, when it comes to packaging, I know also that's another point of waste. I know companies like Apple have, made their packaging smaller, included
Mhm.
less accessories. Tell me about your packaging. Is it also eco-friendly?
Of course, our full footprint is continually moving towards being sure it's got a positive eco footprint. So our packaging, there's a couple of unique value propositions to packaging. Number one, it's all made from 100% recycled postcard. So the
Mm,
paper that's used in our packaging is all recycled. So no virgin paper. Second, we use vegetable ink. And so
mm,
our organic ink, there's different names for it, but essentially it's natural inks. And so our packaging, if thrown away, will 100% degrade itself, and it's not harmful to the environment. There's no plastic, vegetable ink, and recycled paper, 100%. So that's the first part of that. The second part of it, and this is again why I believe my head of design, Will, is a genius. As a solutions driven business, like I said, we are profit driven. I am big time on. I got 3 kids. I got college to pay for.
good.
I need to make some good cash. But I'm trying to demonstrate also. You can be a capitalist. You could be all in on the profit motive and be eco friendly at the same time if you're just being smart about it, not chasing but creating the new ideas and driving the tech that's available to the right interest. So one of the things Will looked at in our packaging is, and I'll use the iPhone 14 as an
Sure.
example. There are 4 versions of the iPhone 14 that were launched. They require
Correct.
4 different, if you customize your fit for your package, that's 4 different types of packaging that you're then having to create. If you go back to what I mentioned earlier about product that never makes it to the consumer, but is manufactured or ordered materials, raw materials that end up being built for the iPhone 14 Plus, and we never get the orders for that, or iPhone
Right.
Pro Max, all of a sudden you're looking at 4 different lines of different size packaging to accommodate those 4 device product lines. And then there's again wastage. What doesn't get used? What do you do at that point? We've universalized our packaging with this launch where, and this goes across all brands, whether it's a Samsung device, Apple device, or other. For us, we have a universal sized pack that we can fit any product into so that
Right.
from a supply chain perspective, if we make a run of 1 million units for something and then we end up only needing 800,000, I'm not trashing those 200,000 of other. I'm able to reuse that because the only part of our packaging that's fitted is the insert in the device or the case.
Gotcha.
And so then that fits into a anchor in the pack. Small thing, massive savings in materials, massive savings in cost. And it's an eco narrative that it just required thinking through proper solution.
No, it sounds like a smart idea. Speaking of cases, when I think about some of the case features that people always look at, it's like,
Okay.
drop test. Is it, resistant to
Mm-hmm.
scratches and stuff like that? How does the pivot case with this, I guess, biodegradable material, does it change how the case actually functions for people?
So that's actually a really good question. So you have to have consideration. So the way we design and manufacture is consideration for the driving reasons people purchase the product. Because again, I'm here to make a really great product and to actually sell it.
Right. And people want to use it.
Excuse me.
No problem.
And so the number one reason for purchase of a phone case is protection. All pivot cases provide everyday protection, which we describe to be about a 6 foot drop.
Oh, great.
I joke all the time. I haven't seen a 14-foot human being yet. Uh, so I'm not sure how many times your phone is going to drop from 14 feet. And in that case, that's usually speaking to a niche customer, construction, who's
Sure.
looking specifically for a massively rugged product. But we provide everyday protection because the average person is 6 feet or shorter. And most drops are from 3 feet or less. Desk, car, bathroom, um,
Right.
out of your pocket and such. But So we have everyday protection. We do provide scratch protection, but we have to design our products in a way that still allow our technology, the self-cycle technology, to be available for the bacteria-enriched or nutrient-rich environment. So there's some science behind how we've done that that I'm not comfortable disclosing
No
for some
problem.
of our IP, but all of our cases provide all the same feature and functionality that you'd find in most of the other tier one brands, plus the enhanced self-cycle tech.
Wonderful. Now, when it comes to the self-cycle tech, um, is there certain environments where it's going to activate faster? So I think about somewhere like Houston in the summer, being that you're a Texan, and how humid it
Yeah,
gets,
yeah.
or if people are using it, let's say in a very dry area like the desert,
Sure.
is there certain environments that are less or more likely to have it activate sooner?
So again, that's a wonderful question that leads to kind of one of the defining points in our product. When we were looking at this technology and how we wanted to develop the recipe, that I like to use the term dying on the vine. The product can't die on the vine. It can't be sitting in a Bell or Rogers or Telus or Verizon or AT&T store and start degrading there. So it's dormant. The self cycle tech is dormant in the product until it is put into a nutrient rich environment, i.e., it doesn't do anything until it's in a landfill. It's just
Gotcha.
built to allow for that. So when it's in a landfill where there's bacteria that do degradation, that's when it's triggered. And we were just at a major customer yesterday, and uh, I'll say it this way: this is a very complex technology and narrative to figure out how to simplify for consumers. And one of the ways I like to describe it, and I talk to customers on, is it's like a sweetener.
Right.
If you imagine bacteria being, it's an organic. There's bacteria sitting in a landfill, and there's a third-party brand case and a Pivet case. That self-cycle technology sweetens the plastic. So when that bacteria is just finished eating something organic and they're a banana peel or something, it's still hungry looking for something else to eat. It's like, well, there's that third-party brand, regular plastic, and there's the Pivet stuff. Smells good, tastes good. They colonize and eat our stuff like it's an organic material. And so they'll colonize and rapidly colonize and eat our product faster than they do a standard plastic.
Gotcha. So speaking of eating, I mean, this is certainly an interesting segue, but I've seen many children put their parents' phone cases in their mouth. Is
Sure.
there anything that customers should be concerned about if they were to perhaps lick their case or touch their, or put their mouth to it?
No, no, it's 100% non-hazardous. There's nothing in this that is dangerous. No.
Awesome. And where can people buy it in North America? Where are you guys sold?
So currently we are available nationally in the U.S. with Target, Best Buy, and T-Mobile. This year is a rapid growth opportunity for us as we are, ready to go. We feel like we've got our infrastructure built and we're ready to support customers. The key of having a great product is also having proper service and the ability to
Sure.
support consumers. We are starting conversations with Bell Canada. We are focused on Bell, Telus, Best Buy Canada, Rogers, and Glintel for North or for Canada,
Mhm.
and then we're expecting to rapidly degrade. Sorry, so you're always thinking about degradation when you're doing what I'm doing. No, we're looking at a rapid expansion as well in North America into other operators and other like dealer stores. We're also available on Amazon.com, and we are pushing into LATAM and rest of world, i.e., like Europe, Middle East Asia this year as well. CES was a big opportunity for us to start to lock down partnerships
Wonderful.
and such for that.
So just my final question is
Yeah.
this self-cycle technology that you guys have, is it something that other companies could introduce into their cases that, let's say they say to you, we want to also be environmentally friendly. We also want to care about, landfills and how long it's going to take.
Sure.
What do you say to companies like that who are interested in maybe partnering with you or taking that same idea?
Tell them to give me a call. That is part of what our role idea is. We're not here. I guess I'll answer to you this way. The answer is yes. We are absolutely open. I'm building a brand, and I'm building a brand that I want consumers to learn and understand is authentic and true. Everything we do, we can prove is part of our mantra. And one thing, we're a BIPOC business.
Sure.
which is very unique these days in the industry. I think we're the first Black-owned company to have a relationship with Best Buy. And I bring it up only to say that, and I think that's the case with everyone. um,
Wow. I'm
but which
surprised.
is it? I know, right? It's one thing where I'm proud to carry that mantle, but I also say I'm not that good. Like I shouldn't be the first in 2022, 23, but it is
Yeah.
what it is. Take it and run with it. But the point I'm bringing up is that, as I say, we're trying to be an authentic brand. We're trying to be authentic in everything we do. We're focused on ensuring that as I grow this business, there's representation, gender, preference, age, sex, all of those things. We're focused on making our brand look like the world around us and speak like the world around us. So you'll see that in how we market. You know, the secret ingredient is labeled as Tototoa. That's a nod to Samoan culture because
Yeah.
Will, my head of design, is Samoan. And so we want to speak language, do things marketing wise, be an authentic brand that represents who we are and what this world is, and so forth. And so, from the perspective of building the brand first, we are focused on that so that consumers have a brand they can trust and know is legitimate, and what we say we do and what we say is real. And then from there, that's when it's time to expand and make sure everyone else has access to this material. And it's not something that's just for mobile. You might see Pivet showing up in other areas where there's one-time use plastic.
That's wonderful. That's really good. So, for people who want to find out more about Pivot, where would they go?
So our website is www.mypivet.com. And as a note, we spell pivot phonetically. That is www.mypiv, E is Eric, T is Tom.com, the phonetic spelling. And if you go there, you can learn any and all you want about it.
Perfect. Well, Michael, thank you so much for sharing all this information about Pivot. And, it's like I said, it's a really great idea. And I think it's really on point for where we're at this point in the world. And I think, consumers will love it. And I wish you continued success.
I really appreciate it. And just the last thing, and this is from what we talked about before the call, Wu Tang forever.
This is John. Here's a couple other videos that you might like, and feel free to subscribe.